Good morning from Mistletoe Bay Eco Camp. Overall, it was a pretty good night here. My tent was soaking wet, raining from the inside towards the beginning of the night. You're kind of coming down into a valley for camp, so the moisture just settles down on top of you. The wind really picked up, and that actually helped dry out my tent overnight. So thankful for that. We are going to be taking the James Vogel Trail back up to meet the Queen Charlotte track. We could backtrack across the road, but I think probably an equal amount of time just to take the nature path, even if it's a bit steeper, more like a trail situation, maybe some spider webs early in the morning. There was a big group of students here, and all that comes with that, the screaming, the yelling. Pretty much after 9:30, they were quiet and they were respectful. Anytime they saw me, they were like, "Who's that? Oh, sorry." So, gotta love it. I'm starting half an hour later than I wanted to because the plan for today is to attempt to push all the way to Camp Bay. My reservations are for Bay of Many Coves, so I'm gonna check in with myself when I get there, and then the first time I have service, I will change that reservation to Camp Bay. I will probably be the only camper at either of those sites. If you tried to do something like that in the summer, it would be a lot more tricky. That's one perk of the winter season, is that there's a little bit of flexibility as long as you can change your reservation, and there has been service along the track. My final update is that I unfortunately did not get to experience the bioluminescence here. I talked to one of the leaders who had been staying here for a few days with the students, and they said it's kind of hit or miss. It also seems to be better when the water is still, and we had that stronger wind. I even went walking and looking for glowworms, and no luck there either. So thankfully we got to see glowworms over in Fox Glacier a few weeks ago, so I'm thankful for that. Thank y'all for being here, and let's see what the Queen Charlotte track has in store for us today. Time to get back on the Araroa. Okay, we are rejoined with the Queen Charlotte track, aka Araroa. I think that little track was kind of cool. It felt like a real trail versus a walking track. Now we've got some good bit of climbing today compared to yesterday, and a long way to go. Let's do it. are making our way up these climbs. They do have a good amount of like switchback action, Unfortunately, I just slipped, caught myself on my bad arm, so it kind of hurt, but I did not totally fall. Trying to go a little bit quicker, but these rocks do get slippery, fair warning. I can see that this will be not a fun time when it's raining super hard. We are on the private property portion of this trail, not the super dock maintained portion of the trail. Nothing crazy though. And the views are just really hitting today, so. All right, we are going to take a quick toilet and snack break. The wind has definitely picked up over on this ridge area. I can see the rain moving in. There's supposed to be rain this afternoon. It kind of takes a break, and then heavy rain starting later this evening. However, once it starts, it's possible it could just keep going. So it's been a little over 2 hours and we're about 6 miles into our day. There are a few more climbs, slightly steeper grade, and the track underfoot is definitely a lot more slippery. I definitely don't want to twist my ankle again, so trying to be smart. There have been an insane amount of gorgeous views on all sides, in front, to the left, to the right, behind. This has been one of my favorite mornings on the Te Araroa. I didn't even see another human until after a few hours. So it definitely feels like we have the Queen Charlotte track to ourselves out here. And by ourselves, I mean you and me. Okay, quick break, then we gotta keep going and race the rain. Okay, y'all, something kind of crazy just happened. I just saw the figure of an animal that looked like the size of a small black bear cross the trail in front of me. All black looking, very like thick neck, kind of like I don't know, thick shoulders. I've seen some black goats today, but are there wild pigs in this area? I don't know. I know hunting isn't allowed around here, so maybe they come hide out here. Definitely was the size of something I would not want to mess with or would not want to surprise out here. I've only seen one other person all day on trail, and that was hours ago, which is really nice. You start to see different things out here. Woo, steep. Just a few miles to go to the campsite we were going to camp at, and we'll take stock there and see where we're at. Always an adventure on the Araroa, y'all. We are a little over 4 miles from Camp Bay, which is awesome. We should get there plenty of time before sunset to set up camp. There are some steep little baby climbs all the way there. I'm looking at one right now. Ooh, it's just been really nice to walk through this grove of trees, whatever we're walking through. All right, let's get to Camp Bay. About had myself convinced that I was super crazy for thinking that there would be a pig out here. And then I was coming around a corner and there was a very specific kind of smell. So I was kind of just, I don't know, on alert. I've been seeing a lot of goats this afternoon. And then I saw a pig. This was much smaller than the pig, possibly a goat, that I thought I saw earlier. And the color was sort of a creamy white with black brown spots. So I don't know again if I saw a goat earlier or pig, but FYI, there are wild pigs out here. New Zealand. The other kind of wildlife that has been a little bit more intense here than on like the Abel Tasman are the wasps. There's not as many of those bait stations along the trail. If there are so many wasps just swarming around this time of year, sort of in that late fall, early winter season, it makes me wonder what that would be like during peak summer season or late summer. If you are allergic or things like that, just be aware they're out here for sure. This lookout is maybe one of my favorites so far, and we've had a lot of great ones today, but you can see the North Island from here. So this is my first glimpse of the North Island. Wow. Now have a 0.8 or 1.2 kilometer, something like that, road walk down to the campsite. Some of this mud is still a little slick. I'm feeling thankful that I pushed myself a little bit on the past two great walks so that a bigger day like today wouldn't feel crazy. I'm definitely tired. My feet hurt a little bit, but feel okay. I don't feel wrecked. Still got to set up camp, have dinner. The big rain is coming in overnight, and then tomorrow we have to battle heavy rain and the track washout. I'm not nervous, just apprehensive of what that's going to look like with heavy rain. There's no way for me to beat the heavy rain to the washout because it's overnight, and I definitely don't want to do that section in the dark. Hang tight here at Camp Bay and tackle that in the morning. Thank y'all for being here for one of my favorite days in New Zealand. Definitely one of my favorite days on the Te Araroa. Feeling like we had the track to ourselves was also really special. Pretty cool day. Let's get to camp. So the rain started like 2 hours earlier than I was expecting, according to the forecast. I set up camp on the flattest spot that I could find. A lot of them were pretty slanted, and a lot of them were next to what looked like could become waterfalls, where it's just like kind of a slanted ledge So like if there's a lot of rain running off of that, it would run directly into the campsite. So I tried to put mine away from that. The ground here is really hard. So I'm getting a ton of splashback already just in the first 20 minutes of rain. Splashback is when the rain hits the ground, and even though it's outside of your doors or your walls, it splashes back into your tent. So my bug net mesh is getting saturated with water. Water's bouncing back and already getting my pillow wet and things like that. The problem with splashback is it's not just wet, it's also muddy. I've put everything I can into bags. This is our last track of this trip, so I will just wash my quilt and wash the things, and if my backpack gets a little muddy, it's gonna get drenched when we hike out in the rain tomorrow anyway. So I'm just trying to stay positive and keep a healthy perspective. Probably the heaviest rain that we are gonna have camped in for our entire stay in New Zealand. I'm also not sure if there's a pinhole in the bottom of my tent, like in the bathtub floor. I pitched my tent specifically so that the bathtub would be a little higher. If you don't put your stakes all the way into the ground with a tent like this, and then you guy your lines to the stakes a little bit higher, it makes the bathtub floor higher as well. And I found that's better in situations like this. Even though it gives you less floor space, you have more protection in case it does start flooding a little bit out there. If things get really, really crazy, I will just throw everything into my backpack and head back into the sheltered kitchen space area. I thought about sleeping in there, honestly, y'all. I thought about sleeping in there, but there is a ton of mouse poo and spiders and possum poo and weka poo. So I don't know what creatures would be, messing with me. I know possums are known to like get up on people who are inside open shelters and just like poop on their quilts and things like that. So I figure possum pee and poo is worse than a little moisture and mud from splashback. But if for some reason it does start flooding or something, I will just throw things into my pack and head over to that shelter and just not get too much sleep, but we'll be okay. We are staying at the lodge tomorrow if we make it past the washout. So I'll have dry bedding and a roof over my head tomorrow. We can make it through tonight. All right, good night, and I'll see y'all for the crazy hike out in the rain tomorrow. Fingers crossed we make it through the washout. I'll see y'all on the next one. Thank you so much for taking a walk with me. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more adventures ahead.